What's up, guys? This is DKOPO, and I want to give my quick thoughts on Earthquake's 1.11 version of himself. So, first off, let's talk about his walk speed. His walk speed was increased, his backdash was increased, and his forward dash was increased. I would call this a small buff since it's more of a universal thing for all of the characters in the game. It's not just him getting increased speed while everybody else is walking in quicksand. It's gonna roughly be just as difficult to try and catch your opponent when you need to approach them when you're in rage. Another universal change that I think affects Earthquake slightly, almost like a small nerf, is the universal dodge buff. Because Earthquake depends a lot on his big normals, and with dodge being better, it'll make it a little bit more consistent for Earthquake's opponents to dodge his long range attacks. Earthquake also had his crouching hard slash increased back hitbox. That's a good consistency and quality of life type of change. So let's say if you're from this angle, your character will get hit more consistently with the back half of the blade and not get it whiffed, so that there's no chance of the character kind of falling out of it when Earthquake is closer to them. I think a big nerf for Earthquake is another almost universal change to a lot of characters' DP attack, the medium ones that have invul on anti-air attacks, on in-air attacks. So this thing against characters like that will be less viable. In my opinion, Earthquake has a tough time against characters like that already. Any characters that have invulnerable dragon punches that get him out of the air, since he likes to stay in the air so often, or any characters really that have anything that could snatch him up in the air as soon as Earthquake goes up on it, kind of force the matchup to be almost like 50-50 matchup between the two characters already, if not just based off of them having their option and how good their option is against Earthquake's aerial mobility button. It could be, like just based off of that one aspect of the matchup, it could sway it to be like a 6-4 matchup in Earthquake's opponent's favor. Another universal change that happened is the weapon flip technique placement of your weapon. So when you do get hit with a weapon flip technique, your weapon goes right where your body is. This doesn't affect Earthquake too much. It's not too much of a positive since he's a ninja character and he keeps most of his special moves. So he's got his flame, he's got his command grab, and he's still got his teleport. The only thing that he's missing is his chainsaw, and of course, it nerfs his range, but for a character without his weapon, he's got a decent amount of range with how big his fists are. A nerf that happened to Yoshitora actually helps out Earthquake a little bit. I actually made a combo video on this. This patch pretty much makes that video obsolete, and it's basically that this move that is supposed to only hit in-air opponents could actually hit Earthquake standing, and due to that, since this move does more damage than the low and the medium versions, it would help Yoshitora get more damage on Earthquake. Alright, so two changes for Earthquake when it comes to rage. His rage burst lasts a little longer than it did before, so that's good. That's good for any character to have. Also, while in rage, his fat chainsaw got significantly faster. The one that actually got the fastest was his heavy slash version of the fat chainsaw, so now you can actually combo into it, which means that off of guard break he actually has more damage potential, just instead of just doing a heavy slash. So here I'm going to talk about the last change he had, and I'm going to lead into what changes I think the character could have to make him a little stronger in the game and a little bit more versatile to play around with. So his command grab had an increase of 20 damage, which damage is good, damage is alright. I think it's not the best damage it could be for a command grab. With, I mean, you look at Earthquake, he's such a big character and you'd assume he'd have a really high damaging command grab, but it's not compared to some of the others. But the data on it is really good, so I think adding even more damage to it would be the lazy way to kind of buff this. I think since screen control and stage control is really important to this character, I think a good buff for this command grab would be if you land the command grab, depending on whether you're maybe press right or left on your stick or pad, that it chooses where the character lands, either on the right side of the screen or the left side of the screen. Another thing I like to see change is, like how I mentioned before, he likes to be in the air a lot, and it causes a lot of the characters to be able to have good counterplay over this, because this is pretty much his best button to control space with. But characters can punish it depending on how the Earthquake chooses to use it, when he chooses to time it, how early, how late, how close, how far. But also with that, I think a good kind of mind game that can happen is if this move right here comes down a little faster and also recovers a little faster. Because if you notice, off of a regular jump, this thing takes a little bit longer to recover than the other one. Now the reason I want the recovery kind of buffed a little is because I've hit people before and I don't feel like I should be getting punished off of me hitting them. I've hit people before and they've punished me right after I've done this move. And the reason I think startup should be a little faster, at least for the light version, is to try and bait a DP or bait a air move and recover fast enough to kind of punish them any way I see fit. I think another change he's gonna have is some kind of tell to show that he's actually doing a dash light. If you look at his standing light and his dash light, this is a dash light and this is standing light. You know, nobody's gonna really tell the difference. So for both standing and the dash light, you can actually cancel it into the fat chainsaw. But that's not what I have an issue with. The issue with is that it's kind of the same move. Like whether you're dashing forward or standing still, I'd like maybe a little bit more of a sliding dashing animation, maybe by like a foot or two, to show that there's a difference in whether it's a light or a dashing light. I don't know, something that maybe helps Earthquake push forward a little faster, a little closer, since people running away from him is pretty easy to do if he needs to close in on them when he's in rage. Also his medium dash, I'd like startup to be a little faster. It's cool to throw this out there every now and then, but because his dash is so slow, it's not really something that really beats using just his regular surprise attack overhead over this. And lastly, his dashing heavy slash. Now I see this move and I see something that could be way more interesting, and I think it should have some bit of armor to it, or some kind of hyper armor or super armor, where maybe against light and medium attacks and light and medium special moves, or one or the other, it could have some type of trade-off where Earthquake still gets his hit off and he knocks down the opponent, but he trades it for a little bit of damage that he gets, maybe like reduced by like 50% or just 25%, any kind of percentage reduced depending on the hit, but it helps him still impose his will when he wants to get in. He does have a full screen option to get close, but that full screen option is really unsafe. Another change I like for Earthquake is, and this is more for hopefully like SNK looks into all of the special moves in the game. Right now I'm doing all 3 versions, light, medium, and heavy, over and over again, and you see like there's just a slight difference in speed. I'd like them to really, I know, you know, there's a lot of legacy in these characters, but maybe have one of those special moves that just are a little bit different. Like for this, Earthquake's big weakness is that people can kind of jump in on him whenever they want, with him not having any real big punish. You know, maybe if they jump in a little high, he can do a command grab right away when they drop down, or maybe when they're jumping in, he just kind of scoots his butt up and does a little bit of damage to get him off. But it's almost like in Street Fighter 5 where the jump in has way more payoff than Earthquake kind of trying to punish. So I would say, so as an anti-air option, I would love for one of the versions of his flame to be angled a little higher. You know, maybe like straight up instead of kind of angled down, so that he can punish people that are trying to jump in on him a little bit more consistently. That'd be cool. I kind of want this character to be a wall. And the most, if I can't have any of these other buffs, the most important buff I want is a change to this. Not that, this. You see what button I'm pressing? I'm pressing it as soon as I leave the air, and you can't see Earthquake's body. Now understandably maybe it would be too strong if he's jumping up in the air and he can hit people with it. Like in Samurai Shodown 6, I know this move right here, when you're coming in, you can go low enough that you're able to hit a standing opponent. And when you're on your way up, I think it's like pretty much right here that the weapon comes out. That's kind of what I want. I just want this. I want this to be able to be around this height when I'm on my way up, not having to wait till I'm on my way back down. I think that'll really help Earthquake's space control when it comes to what his game plan is, or what I think the idea of what Earthquake wants to be is to have this very important button on the way up. You could even say that if he has this button on the way up, he doesn't really need one of these to be his anti-air, you know. So those are my thoughts. So overall, Earthquake was in the bottom half of my tier list before patch 1.1. All the characters that were alongside him had more substantial changes made to them. So he's probably lower on the tier list now, but overall there's a tighter and more balanced and healthier character selection for the game right now. So in time, we'll see where he's really at in terms of character strength and character tiers, but we'll have to see how he continues to perform online and in tournaments. But Earthquake still is, in my opinion, one of the weakest and one of the most riskiest characters to have. And if you do main Earthquake, you should have a secondary ready to kind of counteract or balance out his bad matchups for you.